Hey, what's up, guys? This is David Chase Taylor of 911truther.org. Today is August 17th of 2025. So, based on breaking news and events, it appears that CIA headquarters located beneath CERN at Lake Geneva in Switzerland is going to trigger World War III in some form or fashion on the date of August 18th or the date of August 19th. So, according to the latest reports, in the aftermath of the Donald J. Trump, Vladimir Putin summit in Anchorage, Alaska on August 15th of 2025, numerous heads of state from Europe are going to be landing in Washington, D.C. on the date of August 18th of 2025 to allegedly hash out a peace agreement or a ceasefire in respect to the ongoing Russo-Ukrainian war. So the CIA's plans to seize this opportunity when the whole world is watching to basically stage a false flag, stage an act of war, stage an attack or invasion, basically to trigger World War III and blow up the peace process, which U.S. President Trump has worked so hard to negotiate. So according to the latest reports, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, NATO Secretary Mark Rutte, European Union President Ursula von der Leyen, French President Emmanuel Macron, Italian President Meloni, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and Finnish Prime Minister Alexander Stubb are landing in Washington, D.C. tomorrow on August 18th of 2025 to meet with U.S. President Donald J. Trump to basically hash out some sort of an agreement. There's a numerous scenarios which may be executed in the next 48 hours, but these are the most likely scenarios. That the CIA stages, firstly, some sort of terror event targeting Washington, D.C. with the heads of state or some sort of act of war. Potential locations in Washington, D.C. include but are not limited to Joint Base Andrews in Frederick County, Maryland. That's where I believe most of these planes will be landing. The CIA staged an active shooter scenario there a few months ago, and so this may have provided logistics cover for this impending attack. The U.S. Capitol building, obviously, the White House where they will be hosted, the U.S. State Department, hotels where they will be staying in Washington, D.C., CIA headquarters in Langley, or the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia. That being said, New York, Boston, Baltimore, Chicago, Los Angeles, other cities could be targeted. So exactly what type of attack is planned is not known, but it will either be a direct Russian attack, an Iranian attack, or some sort of Russian-backed Islamic terror attack. Those are the most likely scenarios. That being said, everything is on the table at this point because the CIA in Switzerland is going to do everything in their power to prevent this peace from going through. So they are going to unleash hell, absolute hell, in the United States, in Canada, in Europe, in Russia, anywhere that they can, anywhere that they have an opening, they're going to take it because they do not want this agreement to be signed. The military-industrial complex is basically out for blood, and they are absolutely desperate to trigger World War III. Potential attack scenarios include, but are not limited to, 9/11 style attacks, sniper attacks, possibly targeting the aforementioned heads of state, political assassinations, storming attacks, possibly targeting one or more of the aforementioned locations in Washington, D.C., chemical attacks, biological outbreaks, lockdowns. They might even stage a second pandemic just to prevent this peace from going through. There's also a realistic possibility that while these heads of state are in Washington, D.C., like sitting ducks, the CIA may stage, most likely courtesy of the Israeli Air Force, but they will likely blame it on Russia, and they might stage Russian nuclear attacks in the United States. This could be via stealth bombing attack targeting Washington. They may stage a nuclear ICBM strike targeting Washington or New York City or other major metropolitan areas in the United States. So everything is on the table here. They're going basically going for broke here. They're basically going to try to. This is the first time I've ever seen outside of a G7 conference or a G20 conference that I've seen this many heads of state, and it's all been orchestrated within the last 24 hours. So it's basically an emergency summit. Because they do not want this peace to go through. There's also the high likelihood that in the next 48 hours that the CIA is going to neutralize Trump to prevent this peace treaty from going through, possibly under the guise of an assassination event, possibly under the guise of a health-related emergency, accident, force majeure, what have you. That being said, I just published a report called Operation Eastern Front for a major attack in Europe tomorrow on the 18th. So basically, Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, and Tajikistan have signed this agreement called the Collective Security Treaty Organization, or the CSTO. And similar to the Article 5 within the NATO treaty, Article 4 within the CSTO treaty stipulates that an attack on one nation is an attack on all. And considering that the United States and NATO and the UK have been basically attacking Russia, namely the Shadow Storm missile strike targeting Russia's submarine base at the Black Sea fleet headquarters in Sevastopol, Crimea, Ukraine. Basically, the CIA plans to invoke this treaty, and coincidentally, 717 days ago, the CIA staged this terror exercise or anti-terror exercise called Combat Brotherhood, which coincidentally had troops from Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, and Tajikistan in Belarus, which is basically on the border of Central Europe. So on the date of August 18th, in order to counter this NATO, de facto NATO meeting in Washington, D.C. with Donald J. Trump on the date of August 18th, the CIA plans to stage an attack targeting European capital cities in the Baltic region, the Black Sea region, and Central Europe, including but not limited to Belgrade, Serbia, Berlin, Germany, Budapest, Hungary, Bratislava, Slovakia, Chisinau, Moldova, Kiev, Ukraine, Prague, Czech Republic, Riga, Latvia, Sofia, Bulgaria, Tallinn, Estonia, Vilnius, Lithuania, and/or Warsaw, Poland. I'm not sure if this is going to be whose troops they're going to be. It's likely going to be an amalgamation of the Azov battalion, the Nazi battalion of Ukraine, along with the, which is about a 5,000-man brigade, the neo-Nazi brigade, the Azov battalion. It's likely going to be a combination of them, along with the Israeli IDF, who back on August 5th of 2022, they did an operation called Breaking Dawn, where they called up 50,000 reservists of the Israeli Defense Forces, and so these troops are likely going to seize Capitol buildings or capital cities on the date of August 18th, specifically to nullify the peace treaty that is going down in Washington, D.C. And then, coincidentally, they will have all of the European heads of state, along with NATO, along with Trump, to basically war game how they're going to respond to this incursion that is going to be blamed on Putin. So this is going to be an Israeli-Ukraine operation, probably starting at dawn, in the European theater. So obviously, if the CIA stages any sort of false flag, any sort of act of war in the coming next 48 hours, while these European heads of state are in Washington, D.C., know that it was organized by CIA headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland. It's not a random act of war. It's not a random terror attack, because they are absolutely hell-bent on making sure that this peace agreement does not go through under any circumstance, because once Russia and NATO make peace, then Russia will be back into the G8, and trade between these economies will begin to commence under Trump, and then peace will reign. And they are absolutely hell-bent. They're literally salivating at the mouth. These Zionist warmongers are literally salivating at the mouth to basically trigger World War III. And if they are able to negotiate any sort of a truce, ceasefire, or peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia, then all of this is going this World War III scenario, which you have. It's basically a twin effort. You have Zionist Zelensky trying to drag Europe and the United States into World War III with Russia, and then you have Zionist Netanyahu trying to drag the United States into World War III with Iran. And it's basically a two-headed monster that one of which will die effectively, politically speaking, tomorrow if this peace agreement goes through. So the CIA, which is a Zionist entity, is going to stage a major event somewhere around the world in the next 48 hours to basically sabotage this peace, which is so important because this is a completely pointless and useless war. There is not, aside from World War III, there's no eventual outcome. So it's just a completely stupid war that has no reason for existing, but because the military-industrial complex wants to basically profit off the death and carnage, and they want to basically destroy the United States and getting us into a long-term war with Russia and Iran, on the other hand. So this is obviously cannot be allowed to go through. So Geneva is going to have their Mossad, their Israeli Mossad. They're going to do something. Like I said, the aforementioned locations and scenarios are the most likely, but something's going to happen, something major. And they might just pull the plug on the whole process by basically assassinating or killing off or dying or unaliving Putin or Trump in the next 48 hours so that this cannot go through. Because if NATO and the European heads of state come to an agreement on the 18th of August of 2025, then Putin is going to be meeting with Zelensky and Trump next Friday. So about in 5 days from now, and that will solidify, or they will sign documents at that date. So the CIA in Geneva is going to blow this shit up in one way or another in the next 48 hours before Zelensky, Rutte, von der Leyen, Macron, Maloney, Merz, Starmer, or Stubb depart from Washington, D.C. So obviously if this happens, I kindly ask that you download this video and share with local, state, and federal law enforcement, military, and intelligence officials, as well as with local, national, and international media outlets. Peace.